Actually, somehow my mic didn't unmute. Oh, damn. But so we're joined by, well, Inosuke apparently, which I did not invite him. No, no, it's Taco Cat. So, man, this has
It's
been
hardware.
something we've been working towards for a while. And hopefully we can. This is something that's going to really help us advance our mission for helping people learn about cosplay and photography. So before we get into all that, let's actually discuss what we've been up to aside from this. Um, Ever since the last time you saw any of us, honestly. So, Kirsten, like your last event, I mean, you were with me at Ushikon, but it was actually
Yeah.
Katsu after that.
That's the last thing I attended like normally was Katsu. And that's what um Mermaid Child, aka Lauren, and then Allie
Mm-hmm.
went to.
Yeah, you three went.
They had fun.
And then at that point, I was actually having a conversation about another event, which we'll talk about here later. Um, and then the Rona hit, and we couldn't do shit, none at all. Um, and the first couple months were very interesting because it was just everything like total lockdown, honestly. So like we were pretty much like going nowhere. Period. So and then as reopening happens, well, we're still not doing shit. Okay, I'll be honest there. I mean, but we're surviving. We're getting through stuff, and we're doing shit. I mean, I've had to be really candid. I've actually been unemployed since January, and thankfully, with all the expansions to unemployment, and I have all this free time. I was like, well, hold on. This is maybe something we can do outside of the writing bit, which we had done some for the website. And so that's for me. Allie Bell, who we'll eventually have on stream at some point. She's been very busy because she does work in real estate, which has been nuts.
I'm surprised that she's been so busy. I wouldn't expect real estate to go crazy, but
And it's
it's
not
going
just
crazy.
here. I was actually reading something the other day that it's pretty much nationwide, and
It's weird.
it's very strange. So, um, and then of course, Lauren's been doing her thing, whatever that is, because she's quiet in the
Work,
chat anymore. What's that?
work. She
Work.
works at a vet's office, so she
Yeah.
gets to play with dogs and cats all day, and then comes home and sleeps. That's why she's not really active.
Right. And I was gonna
So
say, and it's not like we've been talking about ideas for cosplay, which she usually has more of an interactive part to, but um, because we haven't been doing that. And then you, Kirsten, have been.
Um, I've been sitting at that little table over there way too much. That's
Yes, you
just some of what
have.
I've been doing.
Yes, you have. Like, and if people caught the test streams last week, I mean, we did kind of talk about how many costumes you've been working on, and kind of now how you're
I have
starting to get into more complex
three
stuff.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I'm working on Glinda. Aerith right there. I finished the sewing on that before Katsu.
Hmm.
It just needs some accessories, then it's done. There's three others that are done, and I'm going back and reworking part of my Ebon Blade stuff. So
Yeah.
Wicked
Could,
and Ebon Blade are huge projects, and I'm like, well, I have time. I might as well. There's no cons for a while.
right. Well, and on top of that, you don't have to drive for school. It's all
Yeah, my
online.
school is all online, and so is my job that I have through the school.
So
So
like that. So that removes
saves me time.
that gives you like 3 hours a day that, or well, whenever you'd have to
More
get to
like two
campus.
and a half.
But still, I mean, it's just a sizable amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's like the one thing a lot of people have said about work from home is like it's like, oh yeah, I don't miss the drive whatsoever, especially if you live here in Austin. Holy shit. And then as for Luis, he's being
Luis.
Luis, yes. So that's us. But as I said, because we had so much free time. Yes, Tao, I know
Is
you're
Tao
there.
joining us?
She might be. You can hear her because she's like just down on the floor. So
Oh.
Um, so, Jesus, Tao. She's probably going to jump up here in a bit. So, one of the things we were hoping to do this year, especially after all the feedback we got from the photo demos that we did at Okashi, Ushi, and Ikikon, which I realized today is really funny because all three of those start with vowels, was we wanted to expand upon that and actually tackle more cosplay stuff because we just hadn't had the chance to. And that was actually something we were discussing for this year. Well,
So much for that.
yeah.
But it's okay because we have Tao.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't bother me so much if she just, like, wouldn't, like, try to grab my hands while I'm... Tao, come on. Can you, like, go, like, sit over there? Go sit on the beer fridge. You like the beer fridge. No, that wasn't long enough, damn it. So, that was something we really wanted to do. And then, as we got to thinking about it, I'm like, well, hey, we've done written and it's kind of okay, which I'm now finally getting good analytics for on the website, which I'm glad for. We can do video, but because of technology and literally everybody learning Zoom at the exact same time, that does actually afford us some opportunity because we can bring in other people to talk about certain things that we might not necessarily be able to do at a con. And also, and this is one thing I've kind of thought about, was because typically when you see like certain cosplay crafting panels at cons, it kind of tends to be like kind of basic / 101 kind of stuff. And now we can actually really kind of start to look at like, well, what's that immediate and up, level of discussion? Because I think, with the internet, anybody could look up the basic stuff. Same with photography, honestly.
There's videos for everything on YouTube.
Right, but who's actually going in and having, well, one, discussing some of these very, more in-depth topics, but also very specifically wanting the cosplay and photography communities to come in and ask questions. So that's what we want to use this platform for, is to do that. And you get Tao. God, Tao, come on, you're being a pain in the ass. Come on. No, stay over there. Stay on beer fridge. No, God, stay.
You need a red dot.
Huh?
You need a red dot.
Lord.
You're entertained.
But anyway, so that's what we want to do with this. And hopefully people we can get the interactivity from the community that we'd like to. Because it's not just about us. It's not going to be just about the guests that we have on. It's going to be about you. We want to help you learn. And hopefully we can do that. So,
doing it from home gives us a bit more of an opportunity because a panel at a con, they're limited what they can bring. Here, if I do anything sewing related, I have all of my sewing crap that I can use to get the point across. Not just a PowerPoint with pictures. I can show you how things work. Mm-hmm. I can pull out whatever costume I need to show the method. So there's so much more you can possibly do from home.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and I think that's another thing too, especially from the educational aspect, is that we have observed that a good number of cons kind of focus more on, like, say, the fandom aspects in their panel choosing. So, there's not always those opportunities for educational material. Or if there is, they're usually typically the guests, most often. So now, with this, we can kind of avoid, like, sidestep all of that. And some cons are good, a better route than others, but we do know that is a thing, where they focus more on fandom. So, once again, more opportunity for you, which will be good. So, Kirsten, I don't know if you had anything more you might want to add to any of that, or...
I don't think so.
Okay.
Or at least not that I can think of now. I don't know. I might come back to it.
Right, yeah. So, something else we had been working on for this year was we actually got brought on board for Classic Game Fest this year. And we were actually guests last year. Um, but this time around, we were going to be a lot more involved. And it was not actually expected when I went in and had that conversation with David, the CEO of Game Over. Because really, the big thing we wanted to do was actually go have a photo booth. We didn't like actually get a chance to talk about this in any promo material, leading up to the original and the postponement dates, and then whatever. Um, we were actually going to run a photo booth. Like if you've seen the stuff we did at Anime on Ice, we figured it's like, well, hey, okay, we know we can do this. And since it's just a 2-day con with a bedtime, we could probably reasonably do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I approached David. It's like, hey, this is what I want to do. But we didn't want just a photo booth with just like a background and maybe some lights. We wanted to do something more involved, like have like old school, CRT TVs, and have a way to display like custom Classic Game Fest graphics, and also have like a bunch of dead consoles and stuff, and have people pose with them. That's one. And there is actually another idea what we're going to do to make it really special, but I'm actually going to still leave that secret. Because as far as I know right now, with this being canceled, we probably should still be set up for next year, which hopefully it still happens.
Hopefully.
But, that was the original idea of us just going in there and just like, hey, have a table to sell prints, whatever. We got more involved than we thought we were.
Yes, there was more.
Basically, we ended up pretty much running or putting together the whole cosplay package for CGF. As in, we went and redid the rules for the cosplay contest. Which, that was a very interesting experience. And I was going to say, especially Kirsten for you, because you're more familiar with like the Anime Con rule structure.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot we had to think about, especially for some of the requests that David made to make the cosplay.
We wanted it to be more fun and not too strict. So it was okay. How do we balance having rules to help it flow? Because we don't want a free for all, but we still want to make it fun. So it was finding a balance between the two.
Right.
Which I do think we did with the final list of rules that we had and how we were going to run things. But we also talked about what kind of judging panel we would want. And we spent quite a while trying to figure out who we wanted, how diverse could we get the panel of, what did we say, 4 cosplayers?
Yeah,
plus Emmanuel?
Yeah, it was going to be 4 judges. So, like last year, which was really funny because that was like kind of a last minute thing, Kirsten ended up being a judge. So
it was fun.
Yeah. So this year she was going to be on that panel as well. Also, like last year, we were going to have Mika Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
And then as part of the kind of more of the performance judge, we're going to have Emmanuel, also known as Creative Mindframe. Because he was also going to be the MC of the whole thing too. So, but then also the other judge was going to be Sonia Blade.
Because she's great. If you don't know her,
yeah, I was going to say you should go follow her. Yes. I was going to say if you want to talk about big ass dresses, Sonia is good about that.
Sonia and I will definitely, hopefully, be talking about that.
Yeah.
I mean, big dresses are great and fun.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's things to know so they aren't too stressful.
Yeah. So, but no, we didn't expect any of that, to really be like the cosplay team, honestly. But yeah, it was really funny to like really rethink the rules. Because like you said, Kirsten, is like most of the time you have like a more strict format for like anime cons and stuff like that. So how to rethink that to make it more fun and not as strict, but still really have those reasonable, especially for judging. That was a big one. Like, what are the reasonable things you could do, but still kind of keep that in mind,
And also, some of the rules are there to help participants as well. It's not just to make things better on the judging side.
Mm-hmm.
It's to make things more fair and fun for participants.
Yeah.
So it was looking at it from both aspects. Will this help participants? Will this help the judges if we put this in effect?
Mm-hmm. And actually, one thing I was looking forward to, because it kind of had been well, it's not really a problem, but still, like, if you kind of run into it, it's just like, well, okay, what can you do with this, whatever, um, was the no weapons rule, because we were looking at actually being able to have weapons check this year. So, like the poor Contra guys that showed up, and they had to replace their weapons with like cardboard cutouts.
Yeah, they had cardboard cutouts that said like gun on them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then there was someone who was a Fallout character
The Vault
and
Dweller. Yeah.
a Vault Dweller. He had made a very nice leather harness and whatnot to go with it, and he spent a lot of time on the prop. Only to find out he couldn't bring his prop with him.
Yeah.
It was sad to hear that. But we were working on trying to change it that way. If you were going to be in the contest, you could bring your full costume, which includes your prop.
Yeah, and I know there was because this was something David had mentioned to me, that sometimes people would somehow get theirs in, not necessarily to the contest, but just into the event overall, because the whole no weapons was not the contest, but like the overall event.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow people would get theirs in, and which was also funny because there'd be vendors there that would sell them, or at least like certain ones like Keyblades, especially from Kingdom Hearts. So it was just like, well, how is this exactly fair,
Mm-hmm.
So I was really looking forward to seeing that removed and just seeing, what that introduced. But it's really funny to see CGF kind of like really hold on and have an event or attempt to, when literally everybody else was saying no, no. And if I may be candid, and I'd actually talked with some other people that were going to be on board for CGF as well. If it had went on the postponed dates, which was mid-October, we probably would have backed out, honestly, because a couple different reasons. So one, we kind of felt like if it went on in those dates, it probably would have been a shell of the event. And actually that was something David had brought up when he put out the video that announced the actual cancellation of CGF for this year, was like, when you look at all the restrictions that were in place, it would just like not be the same thing. So why?
Because what he said is it would turn the event, which is supposed to be the largest classic gaming event, and make it something so small to where very few people could go. You could have few vendors, and it really wouldn't have the spirit that the event was meant to have.
Right, and actually that was and there's something there I want to get to here in a moment. So, and then also ultimately what it is I have to worry about the health of the team. That is the top priority, especially right now.
And then, like, one of the things we talked about with, at least Mika, I don't know how much was talked about with Sonia, is if it was to go on and we still tried to judge a contest, the 5-foot rule, if you can hide whatever flaws with 5 feet, you're perfect.
Yeah.
So we were like, how would you be able to safely judge someone up close? And if you're judging from a distance, you can't really judge a costume. So we were trying to think through, how would this even work with that, let alone the health concerns, because we don't want them breathing on us. We don't want them. We didn't.
Well, and that was going to be another thing with the photo booth, is because like I said, we were going to have dead consoles that people could pose with. We'd have the TVs. Well, it's like, well, do you clean them off like between each person? How much time does that take? Talking with everybody, it was just be like, no, why?
Mm-hmm. Just everything we'd wanted to do, we're like, how would it even work like this? It would just be a giant hassle and wouldn't have the proper function we'd wanted, because we want it to be fun, not hectic for people to come in and join in.
Yeah. So, and I think ultimately, the fact that it did actually finally outright cancel, and a big part of that was because of the extension of the mask order in Travis County, where it went to mid-December, and they said no gatherings larger than 10 people. So, well, rip.
Hmm.
Though what's interesting, since we might as well talk about this, and some of this will eventually come into the World Without Cons. Um, as we've seen with cons, they're adopting more online components, which is very interesting. How effective some might be, kind of hard to say, especially cosplay contests. Um, I still am not sure about
There's a
that one.
lot we can talk about that. A
Yeah,
lot.
um, but one thing I got to thinking about, kind of going back to the bit I brought up about where, like a lot of anime content didn't have a lot of fandom panels. It's very much this consume material, and that's about it. So for some cons that works. That's where you can go online. But we'll say something like Classic Game Fest, where it's very much like the vendor hall is really the big thing because you got all these people bringing in their collections to sell. You can't, like, that's a big part of it. Like, honestly, like a lot of the panels and the concert stuff is maybe like just 50% of it. 50% of CGF is being able to find those games you've been hunting for a while, or like the whatever merge might have happened during those
Well,
era
then
of
there's
games.
also like where they had the pinball machines and the other like actual old gaming consoles that people would go and play
Right?
with. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't simulate that online. Like I can give you whatever thing, but that's different than actually getting to play on that machine
Yeah.
that you haven't seen for however long or gotten to play before.
Yeah. It was really funny last year when I actually saw two Spider-Man arcade games there. I was like, wait, somebody else here has one? What? Because I know the owner for one of them was Imran from Texas Gamers Lounge. So to see a second one from somebody else, I was like, and I still haven't played it because every time I went up to a cab, it was always busy. So I was like, shit. That was actually another problem too with all the pinball machines. It's like they're all busy. Like the only arcade game I actually got to play was Excite Bike, but it was Excite Bike, so it's one of my favorites. Um,
We got to play with the one that had a bazooka, so I used the
oh
bazooka
yeah, yeah, the
whatever
guys who
game that was. I was there with
no,
like
it
a
was a duck
launcher.
hunt
It was great.
because basically what somebody did was take the innards of a zapper for the NES and actually somehow figured it out to make it work in a with a larger lens, which is really funny because if you ever look at what the NES or how the NES handled light gun games was really kind of primitive. Basically, when you pull the trigger, just for a split second, your targets turn into white squares and everything turns black. So, so to kind of see that scaled up was kind of interesting. Um, but going back to the whole cons going to online bit here, uh, it's that's going to be very interesting to see how that kind of affects the cosplay community. Um,
There's definitely been an interesting shift in point of view from cosplayers because you
you,
have those who aren't really motivated because they don't have that con timeline to work with, and it's like, okay, I have my shoot planned for Saturday. This costume needs to be done Saturday at blank time.
right,
Cough, cough, finishing it in the hotel room, right? Um, but so some people are like, well, I don't have anything. I don't feel like working on stuff. I'm not motivated. I don't have that timeline that's pressuring me to work.
right,
But
yeah,
then you have people who are like me are very bored and like, I don't want to be bored. Let me work on stuff and make stuff, even though we can't wear it to cons yet or do photo shoots of it yet.
right, and that's another thing I kind of have to wonder about. So say we get to a point where maybe cons aren't potentially a thing, but maybe small groups are, right? So are people going to consider maybe doing not convention cosplay photos? Like how many more
I've
people might?
actually seen an increase of that lately. Some people are trying to plan to make some sort of outdoor shoots working, and it's some of the people who I know have done them before, but others are like, I'm starting to think about doing this since I don't have my convention photo shoots to rely on anymore.
Right. Well, I was gonna say, and also like an interest in self shooting. Like we've seen Sonya do that. Take up an interest
A
in that.
lot of people have started to get more self shooting setups. Like even like my This is mostly for with pictures and progress and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can easily use my light setup and that backdrop to do selfies and self shooting and all of that too.
Right.
So
And I was going to say, and that's also going to be another interesting thing too in this regard. Both with what I'm going to say with working with photographers, versus self shooting, is thinking through certain things like having somebody one, and this is kind of the most important bit to me, is having that ability to bounce ideas off somebody for how you're going to do something. That's one. And then two, another one is thinking about lighting, posing, expression.
the
Because
photographer offers a whole different perspective than the cosplayer. Because maybe the cosplayer's focus is, I want to show off my costume with whatever I did to it.
mm-hmm,
And so you can talk with a photographer to figure out the best way to do that,
mm-hmm.
and in a very artistic manner, so that the lighting is very good on you and it's not wonky lighting. And
Yeah, and that's another thing that also kind of I have to wonder if sometimes gets lost is, like I said, having somebody to go through those conversations with you.
mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting time, and like I said, I think this is something we're going to definitely want to have panel discussions about. Because I think it's just a bunch of stuff we never thought we'd have to think about, right?
Oh yeah.
And for us, our whole thing is like, no, we want to have the space to be able to go do what we want to do and how we want to do it. Most of the time, that's not at a con. So we're going to go find space to go do it, go find the time to go do it, go make the time to plan. Even though now at this point, like all the plans are probably like 12 months long at this point. So, and I think that's going to be a number of things people are going to have to think about. So that's something we do have on the books for a panel, and not even just for cosplayers, but I also got to thinking about like musicians and guests. Because I know a lot of musicians. Well, Vince, DJ Rockman, he's like big on the con circuit.
You mean Footman, right?
Yeah, DJ Footman. So Mega Ran was another one. Professor Shy Guy, Amanda to a point before she joined up with Andrew WK. So there's and who like voice actors, for that matter. I don't really know how much cons play into that versus actually doing the roles in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I think this is now going to introduce a number of conversations we never thought to have.
Well, like what Vince tries to do now, he does like weekly streams where he's playing his music and stuff, right?
Well, he's actually doing he's doing music like now 4 times a week, but it's actually very very segmented. Like like Saturdays when he can stream and he doesn't have to work, he'll do what's called soundtrack Saturdays, which is all soundtracks from like say video games and anime. And I'm going to help him with that. Like send him a bunch of soundtracks. Like, oh yeah, I don't think you've heard this, but he's shown me stuff I haven't heard. That was like fantastic. Like apparently, and cursing you, this will probably go way over your head because I don't think you've ever played this game, but there was actually music from the Gradius series where they did them as house remixes. So I was like, ooh, I like their music already in house remixes. Fuck yeah, pass it on, man.
Tow's returned.
Yeah, she was like laying on the beer fridge. But yeah, he's doing that. Actually, what's really funny is ever since the whole Tao, can you get away from there? Thank you. She was behind my camera. Like the whole video about slowed and reverb. Oh god, that fucking video. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about in that regard. So God, and this is gonna go way over your head, but it's also hip music history, especially with hip hop. With the whole what's usually called chopped and screwed, which was actually pioneered by a DJ by the name of DJ Screw, who was from Houston, and who basically like pioneered that style, and then go figure, some white girl like post something to I think it was like TikTok or whatever, where she called it slowed and reverbed, and like all the old heads are like. So Vince has actually been doing that on Sundays, actually with nerdcore and some video game music, which is like really very interesting to listen to in that style. Because like you just don't think about it. It's like, oh, hmm. So yeah, so he's doing that, and I forget what he's doing on the other 2 nights. He's also doing some gaming too. So watching him play Fall Guys was kind of like mildly anxiety inducing, honestly. So I don't know if you've seen that game yet.
I don't think so.
So do you remember Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, also known as Takashi's Castle?
Not ringing any bells?
Did you ever watch Wipeout on ABC?
Yes.
Okay, it's like that.
Okay.
Except what you do is it's really in a sense, and I hate this term, it's a battle royale, but it's done in a Wipeout style. So basically, you eliminate so many people per round.
So what Rob is telling us is that he could have a whole stream dedicated to references that would likely go pew for me.
Yes. Well, and actually too. Oh yeah. Oh hey, Nikki's in the chat. Welcome, welcome.
Hello.
So yeah, I was gonna say watching Vince play that game, I was kind of like, oh god, man, I I can't watch, like it was kind of like but I think it was mostly like him and his friends doing it because I watched a manual play, and it wasn't as bad to me. Which by the way, our friend Emmanuel Creative Mindframe, he is doing more game streaming. Actually, watching him play Rocket League is kind of fun, and I usually don't watch game streams because I
usually don't either. They get boring.
They do. They honestly do, and I think it's really kind of the.
There's a few crafting people. I'll watch their streams occasionally, but for the most part, some of the stream stuff when they're just doing a very repetitive process gets kind of boring.
Right.
So if I want to watch that, I'll just sit here and sequence something. You
just be like, yeah. And I was gonna say, it's really funny for me because I hardly play games anymore. Like literally, the only game I'm playing is Fate Grand Order.
I only play Animal Crossing.
Yeah. So. Oh, and that's actually one thing about this channel. We're not doing any gaming. No. Not interested. Period.
Okay, so I need to break your rule and have my Switch right here, right?
No, I mean actually stream the game on the channel.
I'm joking.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's really, like I said, this is kind of like a bunch of conversations we never thought we'd have. And really have
we didn't really think we'd have the reason to have these conversations before, but now we're like, oh, well, what else is there to do other than talk about this stuff?
Yeah. But like I said, I think really the big thing for me is actually now having the opportunity to go talk with other people and do this, and like Piggy Nooka in the chat, I've been talking with her about doing stuff, live and recorded. We got some ideas on there, so like I said, it gives us a chance to do that. And actually, another funny thing, I got to thinking about this the other day, is without having cons, your brain is kind of like more free. Because like if you think about this, like cons are like very stimuli heavy. So
the dealing room.
What's that?
Look, shiny thing over there. Shiny thing over here. Oh, you want to take my picture? Okay, shiny thing.
Mm-hmm. So and kind of going back to your comment about having to have X costume done because they have photo shoot on this day because that photographer's at a con. Well, I can work on this at my leisure.
I mean, I'm happy that I just like have smooth crafting instead of con crunch crafting, because then I can actually work on huge projects like Glinda that are going to take me a long time, just nature of the beast. So gives me an opportunity to do things I probably would have been like, I'll get to it eventually. I won't be able to finish that for this con.
Right. And so I think, that's going to be another part of the conversation eventually. So, and there's a lot more to think about that. Because or something else I'll think about, because this is what really isn't going to fit to the World Without Cons discussion, is, if you go look at the virtual aspect, that's kind of, well, somewhat easy. It needs some planning. But how do you monetize those? Because, like, one big thing about cons is, you know, they make money.
All for less con crunch, like Biggie Nuke is saying.
Yeah. Yeah,
I hate con crunching, but I end up doing it way too often.
Ebb and
Staying up till
Blade.
like 4 a.m. gluing down rhinestones on a costume is not fun.
How late were
Don't
you
do
up
it.
for Ebb and Blade before IckyCon last year?
Don't even ask me how many nights I barely got sleep because of that blade. And now I'm going back and like redoing all of that work, like all the time I spent painting. That's down the drain because I've decided that I'm going to go through and resand and finish all of these pieces a bit more to be smoother because I'm like, that con crunch work ain't gonna cut it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, going back to the whole monetization thing is, well, how do you figure out, in some sort of virtual component, how do you get any money out of it? Because do you have to go buy cameras and all this fun stuff? Do you have to go pay people to be on your stream? Guests and such. So, and I know there's actually some platforms that do that. Like actually, Megaran does that for his shows that he does online. So, how does Vendors Alley play into that? How does Artist Alley play into that?
That reminds me, what Comic-Con did for their dealer's room was weird.
What's that?
So like they had the map of the floor of the hall, which it's gigantic,
Right.
and some of the big booths are labeled. So like Mattel is labeled, Blizzard is labeled on the map. Others are just little numbers that you're like, oh, what booth is this? This is blank. Okay, I want to click there.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them had links to direct you to their website, which is where they were selling their exclusive Comic-Con merchandise online. But
Okay.
it was a very weird format to be able to try and find stuff, and I was not a fan of it. The only things I got this year were actually from the Comic-Con store, not from any of the booths, because it was just weird to navigate and.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be this is going to be a very big learning experience, especially for the cons, because they haven't really, like I said, haven't had a need to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
One that I thought was very interesting, and damn it, I wish I could remember what con it was, but they actually did video streams, kind of like actually in the style of QVC, for people from the Artist Alley.
Interesting.
So they would actually, show off some of their stuff, and I don't know if they actually had the artists on or not, because unfortunately I didn't catch it. But I thought that was a very interesting idea for presentation, was do a QVC style. Not like anybody watches QVC, because we all got Amazon and shit now. But
I mean, it could have been helpful to artists who are taking a huge hit without there being conventions.
Oh, yeah.
Most of their sales are because of whatever nerd walking down the aisle getting distracted by their favorite character and being like, I need to spend money on this, take my money.
Yeah.
So.
I was going to say, and also to that point, because if you go look, if you look at some vendor booth, or, well, Artist Alley booths, they kind of just, like, have, like, a big full display, and sometimes, like, stuff kind of blends in at times, a little bit. So, there is that, it's like, well, okay, oh, that's kind of cool, stuff like that. So, like I said, I think this is going to be a very good learning experience for a lot of people. Not only how to do things online potentially and give them new thoughts for that, but maybe what is how does that affect the physical presence in the future?
One thing we could probably add to the idea for the World Without Cons saying could be pulling in actual like Artist Alley dealers.
Oh yeah, definitely.
How it's changing stuff for them. Because like I said, a lot of artists make majority of their money at conventions.
Well, which is really funny because there's a friend of Vincent's that actually joins his stream at times, that I finally realized I've bought stickers from them at Artist Alleys. Once I finally went to their Instagram, I was like, Oh shit! I've bought stickers from you. I didn't realize. You don't always put two and two
I know
together.
that's happened to me a couple of times where it's like, oh, I bought whatever print somewhere, and then eventually on Instagram I see something posted by them. I look at their profile and I'm like, oh hey, I bought from them at blank con.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, I think this is going to be very interesting to see. Well, in action, not only see, but if it changes. How many cons or people who go to cons or vend or artist alley or whatever, is everybody going to completely revert to where the way they worked and acted pre-Rona, or does new how likely are new things about to get introduced after the fact, after it's safe to go to a con again?
That's an interesting thing. 'Cause, like I've seen multiple people be like, even when things go back to normal, I'm probably going to do more of this stuff outside of cons, like photo shoots in particular. Seen a couple of people say, even when things are better, they're probably going to stick more to outdoor shoots and location shooting rather than the
Mm-hmm.
hallway of the convention center.
Well, I was going to say, and how much money will everybody save because they're not going to the artist alley and they're not going to the dealer's room?
All those rooms are so dangerous, especially with Lauren. The idol booth at Katsucon, it is a very dangerous place. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, and I think for
Good stuff, but
me,
very dangerous.
yeah, and I think for me, I'd be more concerned about the everybody in the artist alley versus say dealer's room, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I have seen some horrific markup in dealer's room. I'm just saying.
Okay. So Lauren's always there with her phone. If there's whatever Sailor Moon figure she sees, it's like, let me look online. Can I get on Yahoo Japan Auctions or eBay? Oh yeah, I can. It's cheaper. No thanks.
Yeah, Zen Market motherfuckers. Which I still have like 2,000 yen in my account over there. I need to like maybe eventually hunt down something. So.
I need to see if I have anything on my account still. Oh no, I switched to using Buy. I buy too much crap from Japan occasionally.
Well, I was gonna say, as if I need more Nozomi stuff.
There's always room for more idols. Always.
Which is true.
Put more shelves up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Allie does actually have a bigger version of the Snow Halation Nozomi for me.
And I have Snow Halation Katori.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it's really funny like how all of us found all the Snow Halation versions of the characters we like.
Wait, does Lauren have Snow Halation honks?
Yeah, I found it. I found her because I found her in Kotori at Okashicon.
Oh.
Yeah, which I was very surprised because it was like, gimme. Very, very reasonably priced too. But then again, like the ones where I got the No Brand Girls and Snow Halation Nozomi over there.
Health has returned.
Yeah, the pricing was super reasonable for all their Nasos, honestly. And based on what they were saying, they were working directly with Sega. So I think that's part of it. And I think that's part of the reason we were actually seeing, over like the past few years, why we were seeing Crane Game figures, from Banpresto and Taito, and Sega too.
I mean, they've been doing the UFO catcher things for a while.
Yeah.
There's a ton of Sailor Moon UFO catchers, whether you're looking at the '90s ones or more recent ones. There's so many of them.
I think what really
Lauren's on a mission to own them all, basically.
Yeah. I think what really got me was when I actually found some at Fry's, of all places.
That's weird. I would not expect that.
Yeah. I was going to say, is Fry's still alive? I don't even know anymore. Like, the last time I went to Fry's, it was so sad. Because, their stock was, just depleted. And this was pre-Rona, by the way. This was, sometime last year, actually.
Yeah, it was definitely quite a while ago.
And they were having, they were selling mattresses. But anyway, so yeah, there's going to be, a lot to think about. And see where the landscape shifts. Or if there's even going to be much of one.
Mm-hmm.
And, and to a degree, how people react. Because if kind of going back to your comment about people saying it's like, hey, I'm going to do on location studio shoots, stuff like that, kind of focusing more on that versus, say, conventions. Will the photographers that do primarily convention shoots follow suit?
That's a good question.
Because we know so many that do that, but they never do anything outside of the convention setting.
Or they just do conventions and weddings.
Yeah. So, do they pick up on the sea change, if there is much of one, and go with it, or do they just be like, I don't have any like cons to shoot. Like nobody's like picking me up for cons to shoot, and just like, do they fall off?
It's a very good question.
But
yeah, even though it's not very convenient, the shift we've had to make, it does give us the opportunity to have a lot more conversations and present more content that otherwise we wouldn't be doing.
Right. So. Grabbing another drink here. And yes, I did actually buy a beer fridge for the stream because it would be unprofessional to go off stream to do this.
Oh, Rob.
Which reminds me, I still actually have a 12-pack of East Cider Seltzer I still need to send to Nikki, and I just haven't done it yet. So, yeah, that was part of the reason why we wanted to do this, is because there were some elements of what we wanted to discuss that were going to be in the, in the con version. You're not old. Jesus Christ.
Needy. Always needy. It's okay. If I had Bumble here, he'd be all over the place. But I keep them out of here. With good reason.
Well, and I know what part of... Okay, no, down. Thank you. And she does it when I'm talking to people, because she'd always do it on my meetings, too, when I was working, so...
Bumble's in all of my classes and, like, my research meetings and officer meetings for clubs. He has perfect attendance.
More so than maybe actual students?
Yup.
Stop. Thank you. So, yeah, this is going to be a great way, I think, to maybe start exploring, some of the stuff that we want to do at cons, and events. And there was actually more in-person stuff we were thinking about doing, like workshops. Which, of course, that's now held off for a while. So, but I think now for some of this, we can actually do them online. And that's actually going to be another thing, too, is like, because we do them online, learn from it. Does that make the eventually in-person versions better?
It could, because you can do a lot of trial and error now.
Right, yeah.
To have a much more refined product later.
So, I think that's going to be, like I said, I'm in a weird way, I'm kind of looking forward to see how things change. Because we know for...
You're not allowed to talk.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Tao.
Because we had seen the landscape stay the same for so long, and really a lot of that was the reason why MTA started. So, what does that look like? I'm looking forward to it, because I like seeing change happen, especially if it's for the positive. And seeing people's experiences in that, taking that change into account. I don't know. It's gonna be, for nerd, especially for nerd history, it's gonna be a very interesting night, I think. So.
Mhm.
Oh man. I was gonna say, I think that was really about it for me, honestly. Really, this whole point was like kind of like get everybody caught up on what we were doing, stuff like that. We're still trying to figure out getting guests on. That was actually one of the points for doing the stream, was so we can actually show them the visual and have them understand. It's like, well, okay, this is what we're doing. And so we actually have a pretty long list of people we're going to talk to.
And we have a long list of what kind of things we might be covering.
Right. And
ball gowns to 3D printing.
And we're pretty sure that's going to expand.
Oh, yeah.
So if anybody's watching this, and actually I need to figure out a good way to collect responses for this. Maybe it's a form on the website. Who knows? Um, get suggestions for not only content but also people to talk to. So, like I said, this is a very new thing for us, um, and we're going to try to do something very different. So it is going to be kind of a work in process for us. Thankfully, from the tech side and the broadcasting side, all my years of experience still stick, and it's still relevant because I can do this. So there's that. So it's really just kind of figuring out the other pieces, honestly. And that's really about it. Kirsten, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add at all, period.
I think we got everything on the list because we talked about what we were doing, what we wanted to do, how that changed. We've talked about what kind of things we want to do in the future with the streaming and some of the topics. So, I think that was everything.
Okay. I was going to say, and actually real quick, since you mentioned this, as far as streaming schedule, right now the plan is to do every other Sunday. And it's going to be the same time, 4 p.m. So if you notice on the Twitch page, there is a stream schedule button that will actually take you to our website where we have an events page where I will put up, actual events for each stream we're going to do. And the other nice thing is you don't actually have to rely just on the Twitch notifications. You'll actually have an option to add it to your Google Calendar or your iOS calendar. So it makes it even easier for you if you utilize those options. So that'll be good. And if you like, what we're doing here, we do actually have a tip jar button that's also on the Twitch page and also on our website. I did actually look up what the requirements for Twitch affiliate was, and I'm like, yeah, there's no way in hell we're hitting that. So, and it was really around stream hours per 30 days. I was like, yeah, no.
What is it?
It's 8 hours every 30 days. And I'm like, if we're doing every other week, yeah, no. So
yeah, we'd have to do more and longer ones.
I'd rather not. I don't want to just crank out content.
Sit here and sequin with me for hours upon hours.
Oh God,
that'd probably get boring.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because it'd be hard to pay attention to chat.
Yeah.
So, which I know some cosplayers do. So, and of course.
Or we could sit here and watch Tao. That could be entertaining. I could bring Bumble and Burrito in. We'd have fun.
Oh God. No, this is make them awesome. This is not make them cats.
Are you sure about that? Or is it make them pig boy?
Make them idiot son. The other idiot son, aside from Mordred.
Yes, the idiot children.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for. I think we can go ahead and actually end it here because, like I said, this is really the first broadcast. Just want to give everybody an update on what we've been up to. What's been going on in our lives and what the whole plan is for this whole thing. And so, please spread the word that we're doing this. We're literally make them awesome everywhere. Like Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. I think I have a Pinterest account. So I probably should go actually.
We have a Discord too.
Yeah, we do have a Discord. I'm still trying to figure out what that's going to look like eventually. So I got to figure that out, especially once we get more people in. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and end this. Sadly, I don't actually have an outro song yet. I got to.
Wow, Rob.
Well, wow. I got to figure out the timing for everything, especially more so when we have guests on. So I got to figure that piece out. So, Kirsten, any last words?
Keep trying to make things awesome because we like dumb ideas. And making them awesome.
Yeah, there we go. So play the recorder. Oh God.
Lauren and I could do that. We played clarinet and bass clarinet.
Oh yeah, I forgot you were band kids.
Yes, we were.
It's like
too many hours dying on a field. It was not great.
Not at all. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and end this here. This will be going up to YouTube, and once we start bringing people in, we'll definitely start announcing that ahead of time, and and those are going to be more structured for subjects. Mm-hmm. So, and we'll have some loose.
There might be some like random conversation-y ones, but
oh yeah, definitely. We'll do that, and and at some point it's going to be all of us on stream, including Lauren and Louise. Eventually.
It's going to be like super rated R. Unless we keep them muted.
It's going to be like R18 in Japan. I think that's how it's referred to. So anyway, thanks for joining us. And as always, get dumb ideas, make them awesome. We'll see you next time.